Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Melissa. I am the owner and artist here at the Top Drawer RVA located in Richmond, Virginia. I'm also a Dixie Belle brand ambassador. I picked up this piece at my local Goodwill for a small amount of $15 because it was broken. I knew that I could transform it and change that corner with Woodubend if needed, but when I opened up the drawer, I found the missing piece. To begin this repair, I added a little bit of wood glue to the back of the piece and then tapped it into place. I used small finishing nails to hold it into the corner and then my Dixie Belle's mud to secure it and sand it back to flat. This part doesn't have to be perfect because the plan for this piece is going to be texture. I'm going to do a lot of textured paint with Terra Clay paint today. I considered painting over top of the hardware today, but in the end decided to remove it and actually take off all of the hardware, including the keyhole on the top piece. As always, begin by cleaning your projects really well with white lightning or pristine clean. This is going to make sure that you remove any dirt or oils from your piece before you begin. And then you're going to need to rinse this with water to make sure you have removed all of the residue. You can see how much this piece is bleeding. It is definitely having a lot of tannins or nicotine coming through. Don't worry, if you're painting this a light color, I would recommend using Boss in white or clear to prevent any stains or bleed through from coming through on this piece. But since the plan for this piece is going to be dark and grungy, I am not going to use any Boss today. I'm just going to clean the interior and exterior really well and then use my Big Mama's butter on the drawer glides. This is going to help refresh the interior as well as help the drawers glide smoothly. I'm also not a fan of a secretary that has to be kind of picked at to be opened, so I'm going to be adding new hardware to the flip down piece so that it makes it easier to open and close. I'm going to add some Woodubend moldings to the front of this piece, and these are really easy to apply. All you need to do is heat up the back. This takes that hard, rigid Woodubend molding and makes it really bendable and pliable. When you use heat on your Woodubends, they totally get bendy. And don't worry, in this video, I will totally explain all of that part. You're going to get to the actual live part of this video around minute 4. Hello Dixie Belle Paint fans. How are you today? It is Melissa coming to you live from the dining room floor where we get to hang out every Wednesday around this time and play with some paint. So welcome. How are you today? I am working on a new project and I thought we could brainstorm together because I always value your opinions as well as work on this piece together. So let's jump in. As always, I do a lot of talking and not a lot of reading of the comments. So if you do happen to drop me a comment and I don't see it, I will see it afterwards. I'll come back in and rewatch the video and we can work on stuff together. So I have a new project, and honestly, I wanted to start working on it so early this morning and I couldn't because I was saving it for you guys. And now I feel like I've lost my mojo a little bit. I've hit that mid-afternoon slump. I should have had a giant Starbucks or something. But I'm back, I'm here, and we're gonna kick this off to a good start. So what have I done so far to this secretary? Well, I grabbed it from my local Goodwill, and I'm going to aim you up a bit so you can see the damages a little bit more. And when I purchased this from my local Goodwill, this entire corner was missing, broken off and gone, but structurally sound when you opened the lid. And FYI, I haven't cleaned the interior. There's literal leaves. There's leaves in there. So I knew that I was going to be able to fix this corner because I thought in worst case scenario, I'll add Woodubend to this. But what happened was when I opened up this interior and took it apart, there is a secretary part that sits inside, and inside the drawer, I found the missing corner piece. So I used wood glue, put it back on, actually used nails, and then I put Dixie Belle's mud over top of it to rebuild this corner. Now, it's not perfect. It is not perfect by any means, but it is looking good enough and it is strong enough since I used nails and glue to proceed with this project. It's an old secretary that's not in great shape, y'all. This is not like a piece that's screaming at me, you better paint me classic and pretty because I am so perfect and lovely. This piece is a little bit stinky, so I have cleaned the interior and I've kind of like lubricated all the joints with my Big Mama's butter. I don't need to boss because the smell has been gone now that I've cleaned it. There was a lot of bleed on the cloths when I was cleaning it. So if I were to paint this in a light color, I would most definitely recommend Boss to prevent any stains or bleed through from happening. Boss would also strengthen that corner. But today's project, we're going to start down here and we're going to work on this. So I thought, why not be wild and crazy since this piece only cost me, number one, $15, and number two, already has a lot of damages. So we are going to paint it Terra. We're going to go Terra, we're going to go heavy texture, and I'm going to go green. We're gonna make this piece wild and wonderful because she deserves to be wild and wonderful. I've already started by adding 2 pieces of Woodubend molding, and we're gonna add the 3rd piece together so that you can learn all about Woodubend, and we're gonna do this together. Okay, so let's begin. What's Woodubend? Well, Woodubends are these little moldings that you can find under tools on the Dixie Belle Paint page. They arrive rigid and hard, and this one comes in a set of 2. This is Woodubend number 1, 2, 3, 7. And I use this one a lot because it's like the perfect size usually to fit on the front of a drawer, on a cupboard. It's a really pretty embellishment. It can go this way, it can go this way, you could cut it in half. You can do 1,000,005 things with Woodubend moldings. So how do you get it from going like flat and rigid to fitting on this curvy serpentine surface? Well, this little Woodubend is like a magical treat. We heat this up with the back with a heat gun. It becomes bendable, and we're going to do that together, and we're going to stick it on this piece, and then we're going to start painting because I'm dying to play with my colors, and I have a vision in my head of green with black, but like very textured and grungy and deep, not like bright shining green. I think we're going to really junk this up and put a ton of layers and a ton of paint on this. So today's project will be, let's add this Woodubend molding, number 1, 2, 3, 7, as well as start a drawer. We're going to start at the bottom. I usually do start at the bottom for some reason and work my way up, and we're going to do it together. So how do you get it from this way? See how hard it is? If I tap on it, listen to my mic. It's hard like wood. And this is a really bendy, curvy surface, right? You can see those little curves on here. She's a beaut. We're gonna get this to be bendy and curvy, and I'm gonna show you how. So I'm gonna aim you down, first of all, for the first part of the video, and then we are going to stick it on the piece. So let's work down here. This is my handy dandy heat gun, y'all. Nothing fancy, Amazon special. When you heat up the back of this molding, we're gonna get it nice and bendy because when it's hot, it becomes bendable. So let me heat it and show you exactly what I mean. It doesn't take long. This is not a thick Woodubend. This Woodubend is fairly thin, but look, see how it starts to become bendy? So we're gonna just keep going. Heat up that backing. And all of a sudden you've got a piece that goes from like straight and hard to super bendy. Next you have wood glue. And listen, y'all, I need to buy some new wood glue. Do you know where this wood glue is from? This is dollar store wood glue. Is that bad? Is that a bad thing that I'm using dollar store wood glue? I'm out of wood glue and I need to order some, and I just forget. I keep forgetting to order wood glue. So now I'm down to like the bottom of my dollar store wood glue, but it's still working. It's still working in a pinch here. So we're gonna use our wood glue, and I'm gonna stick it right on the back. I'm gonna make sure to get in on like the corners of these little details. See how these have like little pokey details? And I'm not gonna oversaturate this amount of glue. It's just like a medium-sized amount of glue. You can see it on here, all right? Now I'm gonna aim you up there. I see people watching. Somebody from Thunder Bay. Hello, my fellow Canadian friends. How are you? How are you? Okay, so now it's curvy. It's still warm. It's still warm. I'm gonna take this. I have to aim this a little bit more straightforward to me, so I'd make sure I don't get it crooked, because I gotta line up all 3 Woodubends, right? I'm gonna take it and I'm gonna press it down onto my drawer. I'm just gonna hold it for a second. I want it to start to cool with this curvy, bendy front, right? So I've heated it up, it becomes bendable, and now I can get it to stick on my piece. Now here's the magical trick. When you have Woodubend moldings and you've put it on your piece, I want you to heat it up one more time. And I know there's a little bit of excess glue on there. That's okay. You can take a wet, damp paintbrush and push that off if you want, or you can just leave it and it will dry and it will get hard. I'm not fussy. We're gonna texturize this project and we're really gonna junk it up anyways. But what do you think? There's my Woodubend molding. How fast was that? So easy, right? Oh my gosh, so easy. So I think everybody should grab a couple Woodubends. Like I said, here's the number for you one more time if you need to write that down or screenshot that. This is available, I believe, under tools in the Dixie Belle Paint page. Woodubend number 1237. Super fun. Set of 2. So I used 3, obviously, which is 2 packages. I'll have 1 left over for another time. Save it and use it at another time. All right, so let's bring you in a little closer and start like this. All right, okay. So I have a spray misting bottle filled with water. I have natural bristle brushes because Terra likes texture, right? When I start to apply this paint, you're gonna see me stabbing it on my piece. I'm not painting smoothly. I'm not being really smooth and fancy. I'm gonna go heavy texture and create little dips and valleys with these textured brushes. This is a French tip. This is a French tip. This one is very well loved. This is what they normally look like, but obviously I've loved this brush quite a bit. They last forever. And this is just a regular chip brush. So you can use just this if you prefer. I find that chip brushes always work best on my projects. Now let me show you the color. Y'all, this might be too much, but I have a vision. I have a vision in my head. Malachite. How are we feeling about this? Do you love this? Because I love this. I freaking love this color. I love this color. It's so pretty, right? Okay, so I'm gonna open up Onyx, which is black, Malachite, which is a really deep green. Also on the floor, I have a really crunchy, because I didn't close the lid well, but that's okay. I'm going for crunch factor. Pistachio, bright green, okay? So we have black and greens. As my wild cards, because I might need to blend, I did bring over a couple more colors. I am missing in my life Terra Clay Paint in a brown. Terra Clay Paint does not come in brown, okay? They have 18 beautiful colors, but they do not have a brown color. So I will be adding my own pine cone from CMP as a color additive to those 2 colors, 3 colors I have on the floor. And I've grabbed some extra blues. London Blue. Check it out, London Blue. We also have Galaxy, which doesn't look like this. It looks purple right now, but it's not. I just need to really stir it up. But Terra Clay Paint to me, it's just magical and fun, and I love to really mash it up. I don't ever really keep anything like one color of Terra Clay Paint. When you think Terra, I want you to think texture, fun, design, ability to create art on furniture. Now, this has a curvy front, right? When I think in my head, the look that I'm going for is majority this, but dirty. We're gonna dirt it up, all right? We're gonna make this happen. So I'm gonna start out with my dark color, and I'm going to do a lot of touching with my paint, possibly spraying. I have rags on the floor to blot back texture. I'm gonna wanna see some wood peeking through. Let's just play and see if I can get what's up in here out onto this drawer. All right, I'm going to start Onyx in black. Listen to me, anybody can paint with Terra, because this is all I'm going to do. Can you see how I'm just pushing that paint? I'm not painting like this. I'm not being so careful. I'm not being precise. I'm jabbing, I'm stabbing, I'm pushing this paint on, and we're gonna start to create texture on top of this piece that really is damaged, right? It's damaged and it's not perfect. So this is the perfect paint for me. This is the perfect paint for me, perfect paint. Hi Judy, how are you today? I see you watching on there. Okay, here's another thing that's gonna happen, and this drives people crazy. I paint with my drawers in. Why? Why do I paint with my drawers in? Well, number one, I paint with my drawers in because I like to see the big picture. But number two, if I took this drawer out and created a look and then shoved it back in, it's not going to be cohesive. I want to create like a cohesive look. Eventually this piece is going to be sprayed. It's going to be drippy. It's going to be pulled back. There's going to be texture. I'm going to add metallics. I'm probably going to throw stencils on there too. So if I took all of the pieces out and painted separately and put it back in, none of it would make any sense. So I'm going to keep it like it is, and we're just going to start to stab this paint on. When you're painting on Woodubends and in and around Woodubends, sometimes because of the highly detailed Woodubends, it's hard to mash that paint around the edges. Remember, this is thick paint. Let me show you how thick this is. This is thick paint. Look, it's not even dripping. It's not even dripping. It is thick. So if you're having trouble really jamming it in to all of these little crevices and cracks and pieces on your Woodubends, just give it a little spray and thin it a tiny bit. If you thin out that paint a little bit, you're able to really mash it in there. My technical terms, mashing, paint mashing, and get it where it's going to go. Okay, love this, good start. Why did I go dark on the edges? Why do you think? I like to go dark in areas where when I build layers, the darkest color will stay recessed, if that makes sense to you. I want to be able to look at this piece and think some of this blackness is going to stay in the dark corners. It's almost like reverse shading, right? I'm going to put this brush aside because I want to keep it black. I'm going to move in now to my color that is going to be the majority of the piece. Question is, do I want to use my paint French tip or my brush that's a little bit more flat? I think I want to pat it on, so I'm going to go with my French tip. These brushes, y'all, are natural fiber brushes, and I love to use these brushes to the point where like I have taken them from that shape to this shape. That's how much I use and love my brush. If you think that you want to try Terra, I recommend the French tip. It's my favorite go-to brush for Terra. So let's take some of this Malachite. You guys, it's so pretty. Why? You know what? I need this in my life. I need some color and some art and some texture. I've been craving a piece that is probably going to make people mad. Did you know that I actually enjoy painting furniture that is unconventional, colorful, weird, and wacky, and it makes people super mad on the internet. For some reason, this paint person that I am triggers a lot of people because they think I shouldn't paint the wood. But y'all saw the wood, right? You saw what this looked like at the top. You see this flaking varnish, big scratches. I mean, hello. If I don't paint it and save it, who's going to? This is my job. I want to paint and save all of the things. But for some reason, these colorful, wild looks really triggers people. What just fell on me? Was that a screw or was that just like a spider? It could be a spider. Did y'all just see a spider? I swear I just saw something fall on me. Okay, if a spider crawls on me and I run away screaming. Actually, I have my bug-eating guard dog here. I think I sound like a crazy person. Do I sound like a crazy person right now? I sound like I've lost my mind. My dog likes to eat bugs, FYI. And just so you know, if I see a bug, I call her and she comes and saves me from the creepy bugs. And she's done it on the live before. I had a giant centipede crawl out of my packing blanket that was sitting on the floor where I was working, like a huge one of those scary centipedes like this big. And I called her and I was on live camera. And she came and saved the day and ate the bug. She actually jumps on them first and squishes them, then eats them. Super gross. Super gross. Welcome to my world. Welcome to my world of crazy, colorful paint and bug-eating dogs, because it's truth. This is how we live. I'm going to call her in here just for safe measures, because I literally just saw a spider or something fall right in front of my eyeballs, and now I can't see it. Let me move the heat gun and make sure that she's around. Stella, is the door shut? Rats, the door is shut. She won't be able to come in. The plot thickens. I'll have to save myself from the spider. I'm sorry, Stella, I just called you and the door's shut. All right, back to at-hand business. So I know this looks wild and crazy, you guys. I know this is wild and crazy looking. But here's the deal. This is not how it's going to look when it's finished. This is just one part of many layers. And sometimes working on one drawer and figuring out what you're going to do is the best course of action, just to get it to the point that you can start to understand that vision that's in your head is going to come out onto the piece of furniture. Okay, so I've stabbed on my paint. There's my technical term, it's paint stabbing, to start to build some texture. What are we going to do next? Well, I'm going to dry this because I want to start to build layers, and Terra Clay paint is thicker, so we need to really get this dry before we move on to the next spot. Hi Norma, thank you for watching. I see you commenting on there. So this heat gun is just going to speed up my process, and you're going to see the paint lighten. Terra Clay paint changes color from wet to dry. Like when it's dry, it's much lighter than when it's wet. So it will darken again when you seal it. When I seal this piece with Terra Tough, it will darken and allow me to really lock in that color. But when I build layers with Terra, I like to make sure that my paint is really dry, because we're going to just keep adding it on and pulling it off, adding it on and pulling it off. So now we have Malachite, which is that bright green, and we have Onyx, which is the black. Let's see what happens. Remember, on the floor I have Pistachio, I also have chocolate, and then I grabbed some of the blues in Terra as well, but I want this piece to be pretty much green and dirty. Let's add a little bit of the Pistachio. Let's start to play. Let's live a little here. And I'm going to put this on really thick. Like when I'm talking about Terra for texture, I'm talking about the paint thickness that's sitting right here on this little brush is going to stay thick. And I'm probably even going to leave it thick like this and then start to scrape it back. I brought out my trusty spatula, so when this does start to dry and I build those layers up nice and thick, we can really pull it back. I want those chunks on my piece. I want to see the magic start to happen. And this is just one of the layers. So let's make the magic happen. The hardener is Batwing, which is not my favorite, but Batwing has a home for me on these secretaries. For some reason, I feel like Batwing pulls really still fit this look, this feel, right? This kind of look of a secretary is not diminished by those bat wings, where normally I would put them on and take them off because I don't love the way a bat wing handle tends to look. I know this is looking like the Grinch right now, right? Hot, crazy mess. But trust me, I have a vision. So this is Pistachio, this nice, bright, beautiful green. There's a hair tickling me, and now that I've talked about spiders, I'm starting to think just about bugs. It's freaking me out. Let's add this green. Okay, let's dry it with my heat gun. It's quite thick. It's gonna take a little while to dry all the way. And now my dog is banging on the door because I called her before and she can't come in. So in my head, this piece is probably going to be built up with 5 or 6 layers. But if I can at least get started on the drawer and figure out how I'm going to let it live, we've got a good start here. If you're working in real time and you did not want to heat gun and dry your piece, that's okay too. I'm just working on film time, which means I need to be pretty darn quick, right? And show you what I'm doing. So I'm drying it with heat gun to speed up the process. I'm going to use the same, should I use the same brush or should I switch it? I'm gonna switch it. So I'm gonna grab one more brush and I'm gonna dip into that pine cone. Okay, pine cone is not a Terra color. This is a Dixie Belle chalk mineral paint color. but I want this brown. I need brown. I feel like brown is missing, so the only thing I can do is add it from the chalk mineral paint line to come in and try and start to mute some of the brightness, okay? I'm using the same form of application, which is just tapping it on. And I'm just gonna start to play here. This might turn out to a hot mess. Right now, I know it looks like a hot mess express, but in my head, I totally do have a vision, trust me. But it's gonna take a little while to get there. So I'm just gonna start to play with some of these colors and these textures and really start to make some magic happen. Terra paint is also reactivated by water, so you can pull it back with a cloth. So how long to dry in between coats naturally? Somebody's asking how long Terra would take. Here's the thing. If you put it on really thin and you're not using a lot of paint, you're gonna have the ability to have it dry quicker. But when I put on like this pistachio, this bright green, I'm putting on chunky paint. I'm putting on thick paint. It's gonna take a long time. If I were to, say, paint a piece and complete it in one day, I personally wouldn't even try to start applying a top coat for at least 24 to 48 hours. Because, you know, you want that paint to really dry and really start to cure up. Because it's applied so thick with those peaks and valleys, it's the way that it's gonna be. It's gonna be as thick as you applied is as long as it's gonna take to dry. So know that. So right now I'm just putting on that pine cone to just kind of mash some of that green in here. And I'm using a French tip that's being well loved, and it's actually no longer a French tip, it's a flat tip. It's flat now. It's loved, it's had a good life, but it still works. See how I'm mashing it and pushing it down? We're gonna start to build those layers up. I always love how Woodubends look when you paint them. There's something really, I don't know, delicious about a Woodubend molding. It just adds such amazing texture to a piece. So now that I've got this chocolate on here, I'm going to hit it with the dryer again, just to start to dry what I'm doing here. And then we're going to wash it with black, I think, and start to pull it back some and see what happens. Any questions for me while I can see my camera nice and close? You guys are hanging out watching this Hot Mess Express. I do have a vision. I would love for you to hang out with me while we figure it out together. I do this look almost exactly the same style with blues and cream a lot. So going heavy with the blacks and the blues and the browns, and then adding the white over top to dull it out, right? Because my next step is to start to dull some of these colors and really change the look of this. All right, so let's go back to the black Onyx brush, okay? And let's start to, rather than pounce on my paint, let's start to just brush it on. I want to start to cover up what I've done. And don't worry, I'm not covering it up for any other reason than once I start to cover it, I'm going to pull it back. We're going to wet it, and I'm going to start to maybe get out my spatula and drag that spatula so I can pull back some of this chunk factor. And we're going to spray it and we're going to move it. So the green is the superstar of this piece. The green is the color that I'm looking for, majority. But the green itself is way too bold. So we're gonna start to build these layers and see what happens. Let's work on this little section right here. Are you trusting the process, or are you doubting me right now? Honest opinions, throw them at me. I'd love to hear. If you are a follower of my work at the Top Drawer RVA, you know that this crazy isn't what is the final outcome. You know that it changes a lot in between this look and my final. So if you are not following me and you wanted to see what the heck is she talking about, she is just really a hot mess express, you can go over to my page. I have tagged it in the description of this video. I am Melissa from the Top Drawer RVA, and you can come over there and find my pieces. You can come check me out and see all the wild and crazy things that I like to paint together, just to have some fun and have some color in your life, because why not? Life is too short to be boring. Why blend in when you were born to stand out, right? Why do that? And anyways, it's just paint. And this was only $15. So the cheaper the project, the more wild you're probably going to find me painting, because this is how we roll. Okay, so now we've covered what I've done with the black. And you're like, well, why did you do all that other stuff to begin with, right? Remember, I have a rag here on the floor, and I have my water here on the floor, right? We are going to start to pull this back. I'm going to move my paint so I don't get water inside of it. Let's start to take off our hard work. Remember, Terra Clay paint is reactivated by water, right? So even if this is 100% dry and I came in here and started taking some of this off, let me even grab right up here at the top of my secretary is paper towel, because I might use so much water that I'm just going to saturate that little tiny cloth. I want to just start pulling some of this off, and paper towel might do it better. Okay, now I want wood. I want to see the brown, right? I like the brown color. By patting and pulling, I'm going to start to, I left all the hardware on the top of this. It's going to be awful noisy when I start to do this. By patting and pulling this paint, I'm going to start to remove that top layer so that the green that's underneath is going to start to peek out. Can you see the green? Can you see the wood? Are you close enough? Do you need to come even closer? Are you able to see a little bit about what's happening here? Right? I want to make this piece start to look really old, really layered, and just old. I want it to look old and dirty. Is that weird of me? Does anybody else like to dirt up their piece? Like, this is a thing I say all the time. Let's dirt it up. Let's make it dirty. I also think I will get my gold or copper mousse and start to drip some gold and copper mousse on this piece as well. Here's that pistachio coming up. Can you see that pistachio starting to peek through? Remember, I popped it on real thick, real thick. So because it's the thickest, that's going to come out first. I put it on real thick over here too. Let's really mash and see what we can get happening over here. So because Terra Clay paint is reactivated by water, putting it on, spraying it, taking it off is all normal. This is how you're gonna get those old kind of really distressed, funky looks. Looks like, oh my gosh, that piece has been around for like 100 million years and just, you know, dragged and pulled out of maybe like an old castle or something. I'm being super dramatic, but I'm a little dramatic. So putting the water on and blotting it back. Putting it on and blotting it back. I'm getting that color to start to peek through. I'm going to get beautiful runs and drips. Y'all, look at how good that part looks. And by practicing just on one drawer to kind of figure out my look of exactly what I'm going to do is a good way for me to figure it out. Can you see a little bit of what's happening? Let me turn and bring you in a little closer. Can you see now how that color that's underneath is starting to peek through, how the wood is starting to peek through? This piece is going to be dark. It's going to be dramatic. It's going to be drippy. It's going to be all of the things. All of the things. What do we think? Do you like it so far, or is it too much for you? Is it too weird? Is it too weird and wild for you so far? Because this is step one. This is just step one of the weird and wild that I'm probably going to do at my house. Now, I think I want to add a little bit more pine cone. I think I want to go back to that brown. I think I want to just kind of start to maybe add some lightness in the dark. You guys, this is so good for me. I feel like I've had a bad week, and then like sitting on the floor and making a hot mess. This is what makes my heart happy. I should have done this morning because I really was waiting for you, but I needed to wait for you to start this project. But this is like therapy for me. When's the last time you opened up your paint cans and just like did whatever the heck you wanted? It's probably been too long. And the holiday season is coming. So it's only going to get busier. We're only going to get worse. I think that maybe my prescription as the paint doctor for you will be to sit on the floor and have a little paint therapy. Open up the cans. Start to play a little. Let's start to make some magic happen just because you can. Why not? This is what makes me happy. I'm going to start to drip some greens down, I think. I think I want a little bit more brightness. Just not everywhere, just in the edges. Any thoughts on maybe adding patina to this? Does anybody think that patina, like I'm talking about actually rusting and crusting this, how that might be a good idea? I know Patty said she was watching. She's always got really great ideas. Patty, what do you think about combinations of greens and blacks and rusty, crusty patina? Will it be just too much? Is it ever too much? It's not. It's never too much. So now I'm just taking my brush, and it's got a mash of all of the colors on here at this point, but it was majority pine cone, which is a really great neutral brown. We're going to start to move some of this around. So remember, when this dries, it's going to be a little bit different. I did a heavy thickness on the pistachio over here. Let's start to bring some of it back by taking off the paint I put on top. Isn't that yummy? Isn't that yummy? Copper patina. Copper would be lovely. I like copper, especially when I start to try and do like an old feel. So now I'm just going to start to put on and take off this little plastic spatula. It's going to get a lot of junk on it, but see this junk? I'm going to save this junk and I'm going to wipe it on different sections. So now I'm going to start to pull off some of those layers, and you're going to see the color that was underneath start to really show up. It's really going to peek out. Oh, you guys, this is what I'm wanting to happen. I know it's really hard for you to see from this one little square inch, but this is where my brain is headed. My brain is saying, please put more things on here. Please make it really thick and chunky. So I'm taking that thick paint that I scraped off, that I had layered on, and I'm just wiping it on. And you know what? I'm going to put more black over top of it after I dry it and scrape it off again, because I want to start to see some of that peak. See that? I mean, I know this is not everybody's cup of tea, but I am not everybody's cup of tea. And this was only 15 bucks. So it's making me happy. I'm going to just continue to really junk it up until I get it exactly the way I want it to go. So all of this thickness, you can also do this with mud. I brought mud, but I don't have any black mud. And to kind of get the look that I want and pull it back, I would have to darken this and deepen my mud, because I only have white. I don't have any black on hand. So I'm not going to use the mud. I'm going to just keep scraping and moving my paint around. Look at how pretty. Okay, I know this is going to be hard for you to see. Let's aim you down. Can you see this section right here? Can you see how this looks with the color peeking through the black? This is where I am wanting to head. So this right here is super duper love. Love, love, love. Copper patina, probably dripping down over top of the edges. That would be perfect. I've got to get this thicker stuff dry so that when I come over top and add more black, I can scrape it back and show that green peeking through. I know it's brave and daring to use such bright colors, but this was the agenda for this piece. She was telling me she wanted to be green and textured and have some delicious life to her, because this is just plain fun. I continued the same process all around the entire secretary, front, sides, and back. building layers to build up that base so that when I come in and scratch back that paint, you will see the colors underneath. I went super heavy on the pistachio so that when I push that back with the metal scraper, the pistachio will be shown quite heavily underneath the hardware. This stencil is called the Retro Lattice stencil. You can find this under the bells and whistles on the Dixie Belle Paint page. I combined two Terra paint colors. I used Wheat and Moonbeam and gently stippled on the paint so that when I come in and sand back, the original stencil will not be full. And this is what it looked like before I started sanding. I used my gray sanding pad to gently pull back the layers and reveal the pistachio and the colors of paint underneath. To seal this entire project, I will be using Terra Tough. This is Dixie Belle's Toughest Top Coat for Terra Clay paint. Make sure to wait for enough time to pass so that your clay paint is actually thoroughly dry before you add your top coat. If you start to add your top coat before your paint is dry, it will move. Remember, this paint is reactivated with water. And when you see me using a heat gun, it's just because I'm impatient and I need to dry up those layers before I come in and add the second coats. Terra paint will deepen and darken when you come in and seal it, so it will actually be a little bit more dull in color. I used my metal scraper to really push back that paint and reveal some of the wood underneath. I want it to look as old as possible. I also used a wet rag and came into wet distress and pull some of the paint back as well. I did use Gilding Wax in black to come in around the Woodubend as well as the hardware. I like to do this after the hardware is on so that I can really kind of age the piece and add a little bit of a drip of dark down the hardware path. And since Gilding Wax is a oil-based product, you can do this last. If you prefer, you can do it before you seal. Either way is going to work, but since this is oil-based, I like to do this step last. On the top of the secretary where the piece drops down, I added new hardware from Hobby Lobby that was actually really close in comparison to what was originally on the piece. And this is what we were left with. This is the exact design that I was going for. Very rustic, very old, and very worn out. I don't want to see any of the actual true color. I want everything to really be muddled together and worn back like it would have naturally aged. Thanks for watching my YouTube today. I really enjoyed painting this piece and I hope that you love it as much as I do. And if you wanted to try your own Terra paint project, remember that Terra is now available in those cute little 4-ounce containers that are the perfect size for trying out something new. With a little bit of staging, I added a touch more drama and took some really pretty pictures. Stay tuned for more Terra projects. It's definitely my most favorite paint.